Coming up on this summer wrap-up edition of Inside Bellingham, the Mount Baker Theater is off to a new season of breathtaking performances and live entertainment. We've got a preview. And an update from Mayor Tim Douglas, who looks at the city's progress since he took over last November. And it's finally underway. The groundbreaking for the new Art and Children's Museum means interesting changes downtown. All this and a wealth of information more, right here on Inside Bellingham. Greenfield stepping in for Doug Waldo, who's stepping out on vacation. And this is Lowell School over in the South Hill neighborhood. Lowell has magnificent views of Bellingham Bay, as does most of the elevated South Hill neighborhood. Taylor Dock and Boulevard Park are key recreation areas of the neighborhood. The area is predominantly residential, older, large, and small homes snuggled all over the hill with newer condominiums and apartments settled along State Street near the bottom. At the southwest corner is the historic Reed Boiler Works, a family-owned business started in 1899 and still making boilers today. Today, the South Hill neighborhood is a cordial mix of the enriching historic as well as the dynamic modern. Speaking of history, this home is called the President's House. It was built to be the home of the president of what is now Western Washington University. It hasn't changed much in 70 years. And I know that because this photo was taken somewhere around 1935. The trees and plantings have matured from when the photo was taken, probably soon after the house was built. Since then, it has been wonderfully cared for and preserved. The photo is part of the collection of the Whatcom Museum. Speaking of vintage homes, this summer the South Hill Neighborhood Association held their first ever South Hill Home Tour. Their goal was to demonstrate that historic homes can be updated and renovated while still preserving their character, historic authenticity, and craftsmanship. The group received a small and simple grant from the city to help promote and create the events. We spoke with Sue Hines, whose 1938 Colonial Revival home was part of the tour.
This house was built in 1938 by Hans Thiel of Thiel Plumbing. And it's considered a colonial revival home due to the dormers upstairs. I had thought it was a Cape Cod home, but through some research, and Michael Hauser from the State Historical Society told us that with the interest in Williamsburg in the 1920s and 30s, the dormers became more important than just flat Cape Cod would be. Part of our focus of the home tour was to show more modest homes. The tour this year was most successful. More than 40 people volunteered as docents to welcome people into the 5 homes, and I think there is energy and excitement about continuing this project. I think South Hill's proximity to Fairhaven is a definite tie-in with the ferry coming, with tourists from all over the country as well as other countries. We're hoping to create a walking tour that will tie in with the Fairhaven Historic District, the Carnegie Library, the beautiful homes on Knox Avenue, and show people what Bellingham how Bellingham grew and Bellingham has to offer. It might help other people to look at their own communities and go home and want to preserve their history and integrity as well.
You can get more information about what's going on in the South Hill neighborhood by visiting their website at www.shna.ws. South Hill isn't the only neighborhood in Bellingham with historic architecture, and because Bellingham is preserving its historic resources, the city recently received a $150,000 Preserve America federal grant. The grant will be used to preserve and protect our cultural and natural heritage. We asked Katie Frakes with the Planning and Community Development Department to explain what that means and how the money will be used.
We'll be using the $150,000 federal grant to hire a historic preservation consultant who will lead a volunteer effort. Volunteers will be trained to inventory and survey 3 of Bellingham's historic neighborhoods: York, South Hill, and the Leonard Streets neighborhoods. A key part of this grant is partnerships. The Planning and Community Development Department is all about forming meaningful partnerships with nonprofits and other public agencies, as well as citizens. We'll be working closely with the Watka Museum of History and Art, the photo archives. We will also be working with the Bellingham Public Library, the Washington State Archives over on the Western Washington University campus, and with Western Washington University itself. This is going to be a large part of the grant. We will expect the consultant to help train neighbors, citizens, and students.
I'm Chris Friday, Professor of History at Western Washington University and Director of the Center for Pacific Northwest Studies. We see our students in particular as being a kind of labor force, a ready labor force for the community, but it's also a great way for them to train in very specific aspects of history. So, for example, our students might do a little study of historic architecture and then help the city by going around to the different blocks and detail the type of architecture and relate it to the time period when it was built, look for common features, and also look for anomalies. In addition to looking at historic architecture, one of the things that they may be doing is working with GIS to plot the exact location of a number of properties. They may be involved in doing research in terms of the legal title, when these properties were built, what kinds of changes were made to them. So they would be working in local and state government records. They might be looking through and sifting through mounds and mounds of historic photographs of whole districts or a street or a neighborhood, trying to pinpoint 1 or 2 houses that are still existing. They might be going through old city directories and trying to find out who actually lived in these structures. We hope to get somewhere between 20 to 25 or 30 students over the course of about 6 months involved in this project.
I really like this project because it's going to provide a really good foundation of information that will help people not only understand the background of where they live and find out things that aren't necessarily visible, but it will also help planners. Many planners are very interested in preserving neighborhood character, and this will help provide information that will help them do that.
You can find out more about the Preserve America grant and the city's dedication to our historic resources by visiting the city's website at www.cov.org. 2 big things are happening at the Mount Baker Theater. First, a new season of live, spectacular entertainment is about to get underway. And second, the theater is poised to start Phase 2 of its new remodel program. We asked Brad Burdick and Kim Lansky to show us the changes at the theater and give us a preview of this season's upcoming shows.
We had 104,000 plus people come through our doors last year. We're just a very active, thriving part of the community. There's a lot of things happening this year. We've got a great season in store for you. And then starting in March of 2008, we're going to be taking a short intermission on the main stage and doing some significant repairs and improvements to the theater for about 9 months. If you've ever been to a show at the theater in January, and you've sat at the front of the theater near the stage, sometimes the temperature can be as low as 60 degrees, and on that very same performance, if you're in the balcony, the temperature gets close to 90 degrees. And so with these changes in what's going to happen with Phase 2, those temperature variations will be addressed, and hopefully everybody will be able to have a great, comfortable temperature wherever they sit in the theater. We'll be changing a lot of things in the house, and I don't know if you can see behind me or not, but when you come to the shows this season, you'll notice that the dome lighting capability has changed significantly. You'll see some blues and some greens, and when it's appropriate, maybe even yellows and oranges. we're restoring all of the original lighting capacity that we had and the capabilities that we had from the 1927 plan that Robert Reamer had when he designed the building. Over the years, because we haven't had enough light in the main house for the people to read the programs, we've changed a lot of the colored lights to white light to try to get as much light as possible into the theater itself. And now with the new, more efficient technologies and the brighter lights with the LEDs, we'll be able to restore the color for the lights and provide everything that was originally intended to show off this space, and we'll still be able to provide a lot more light for people to read their programs.
Every time I look at you, I don't understand. Why let the things you did get so out of hand? You would have made it better if you had a plan. Why you choose to back the time and fuck the train man around? Only one can know. Only one can know.
But one of the things that the Mount Baker Theater commits itself to doing is to provide a diversity of performances here so that people who have varied interests will find something they like to see. There's going to be shows here next year like the Blind Boys of Alabama. There'll be the Monterey Jazz Festival. There'll be a bluegrass family called Cherry Holmes. There'll be the Capitol Steps, which is a political satire, and they'll certainly have a lot to talk about. But there'll be a couple of shows I'd like to mention. One is called Streb, and it's on October 10th. You know, the name by itself, it's like, you know, what is that? But it's these dancers that are bounding across the stage, and they're flying off the wall, and they're banging up against these various contraptions. There's this wheel that's like this hamster wheel that you see them flying off of, and they've got this great tagline that I love. They say it's ballet in a mosh pit. And, you know, what is that until you really see it? And then there's another show that's called Cirque Works Birdhouse Factory, and that is in November. And it's what it is it's kind of the next evolution of circus after Cirque du Soleil. So it's a very different, very kind of hip, high-energy show, and those are the kinds of things we like to bring in. You know, not just our core anchor Broadway shows, but diversity, different types of things, so everybody has an opportunity to see something here. Now, during our intermission, from March of next year, March of 2008 through November of 2008, the main stage will not be available for presentations. We are instead going to move the performances, the same type of shows that you would expect on the main stage, next door to the studio. Shows like Suds, which is kind of this rockin' 60s musical soap opera. We've got a show called Say Goodnight Gracie, and it's George Burns and his story about his wife, Gracie.
I thought, what a lovely girl this is. Her name was Grace Ethel Cecile Rosalie Allen. Born and raised in San Francisco. She was simply the dizziest girl in the world. What made her so original was that she acted as if everything she said made perfect sense. She said she put salt in the pepper shaker and pepper in the salt shaker, so if she made a mistake, she'd be right.
We've got a show called The Male Intellect. The male intellect is an oxymoron, and it's kind of one of those things where, you know, the guy's talking about how men can't really understand women and vice versa.
I forgot all about this. Sorry. Just talking to some friends. They stopped by for a chat. What? You going to Parsons later for a beer? You want me to join you? Are you asking me out? No, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that can you hold on a second? What do I do?
Great show for couples, you know, great show for someone like myself who's been married for 20 years. And so those shows will be week-long runs, so people will have an opportunity to see them any one of those nights during the week. Essentially, there'll be about the same amount of tickets that would be on the main stage just over the course of a week.
You
can always get more information about the theater and ticket information at www.mountbakertheater.com or by calling the box office at 734-6080. Just down the block from the Mountain Theater, here on Flora and Grand Street, city, county, and public facilities district officials all got together for a block party. What they were celebrating was the timely start of construction of our new Art and Children's Museum. It's an $11 million structure funded by the Public Facilities District. There was dirt tossing, there was speeches, the Atlantics were on stage, and there was plenty of food. We asked Patricia Decker, manager of the district, to fill us in on the new museum's progress.
Well, we're starting the construction of the new Art Museum and Children's Museum.
Here we go. And with the shovel full, now we begin.
It'll be a two-story building with a basement. It will have quite a strong architectural feature, which we call the light catcher, which is the curving surface that you see. It will be internally lit, but it will also have the ability to have images projected on it. And that wall is about 33 feet tall, or will be about 33 feet tall. The building itself is a fairly simple construction in terms of how it's put together. The complexities are with the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, because we're housing collections that are sensitive to changes in temperature and changes in humidity. And we're also housing a children's museum where there needs to be a little sound isolation from active, energetic kids and those parts of the building that you want to be more contemplative.
This project wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a whole lot of things that had to come together. But the extraordinary cooperation between the city and the executive branch and the city council, the county executive and the county council, working with the Public Facilities District and all those, it truly was a tremendous community team effort. Extraordinary cooperation from the city and the county to help get us here today. So for brief remarks, I would like to introduce to you the Mayor of Bellingham, our good friend Tim Douglas.
Thank you, everybody. We do recognize in this town that children are absolutely critical to our future, and their future should be a rich one. And the only way that's going to happen is if we invest in our hard-earned money and our hope for the future by putting together the kind of facility where they can be inspired, where they can be creative, where they can learn, where they can be excited about life, and really get off to the kind of start that will make them very, very remarkable citizens for years into the future. And this is going to be that kind of a place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now another vital and integral part in our process, our good friend and county executive, Pete Krem.
This isn't just a children's museum, but it's about families. It's about embellishing this beautiful downtown center that we so greatly cherish. And it's also about economic development as well. This is going to help our economy. It's going to enrich our overall quality of life in this community, and it signifies how important we place that value of this community.
Get more information about Public Facilities District projects like the Art and Children's Museum by visiting their website at www.bwpsd.org. Scoop the poop. There are signs urging dog walkers to do just that on all trails in Bellingham. There's even a city ordinance that makes it illegal not to. But what's all the fuss about? Does it really make a difference if you don't? Isn't it just fertilizer? Tim Spence gets the straight scoop about pet waste. Michelle, what kind of testing is the city doing to learn about pet waste impacts?
The city tests our source water, which is Lake Whatcom, on a weekly basis. We test it right at the intake to the treatment plant. We also test streams that drain into Lake Whatcom. As a drinking water provider, the city is concerned about bacteria in the lake because that affects how we can treat the water. The test results are showing that an area of concern are the streams that drain into Lake Whatcom. There are several sources to bacterial contamination in the lake or any water, body of water. Not only domestic pet waste, which includes dogs and cats, of course, but cows and horses. There's wild animals, such as Canadian geese, which we have a pretty large local population, as well as failed septic systems. I know that the city has a program where at least 20% of the septic systems are inspected annually, and that's because we are concerned about making sure that we address all sources of bacterial contamination. In Washington State, there's a roughly 37.4% of the population owns dogs, and of the dog owners, they tend to own about over one dog, about 1.5 dogs, and that equates to roughly 41,700 dogs in Whatcom County.
Wow.
That's a large population.
Right.
And if we were to leave all of our dog waste on the ground and just let it go its natural course, that would be equivalent to dumping raw sewage from 10,500 people into the environment.
That puts it in perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of raw sewage. So it really pays off to pick up our pet waste.
Yeah. So John, what are the impacts to human health from pet waste?
Well, where I'd like to start is to talk about pathogenic and harmful bacteria that live in the lower gut of the intestinal tract, and the way that they move through is through the feces. And so with that, feces that are left on the ground have the potential to migrate into water bodies, and water bodies we're concerned with are places like Lake Whatcom.
So when you say pathogenic organisms, what do you mean?
Well, what we're talking about is we're talking about bacteria, viruses, and other organisms such as nematodes or worms, things like that that can be passed through.
So how do the pathogens affect human health?
Well, they normally affect it through getting into your intestinal tract, and that's where they do the most harm. Basically, you can run the risk of fever, you can have very bad diarrhea or explosive diarrhea, depending on, again, the organism. There are many different factors, feeling ill. Some of it requires actual medical attention. This isn't something that just goes away on its own. Some do, but a lot of them don't.
If a little bit got into the water where kids are swimming, would that really make a difference?
Very much. Depends on the amount of material that gets in the water. It's not how much water you ingest, but how much of that organism is actually in the water. And again, bacteria and viruses, a lot of people don't see it, or these other organisms, and so they don't really think about it. But when they get the illness, they will definitely remember that they had it. So we really want to do our best here in the Lake Whatcom watershed to ensure that we do our best to reduce that risk to people.
Rather than worry so much about what the wild animals are doing, focusing on what you can control. Make sure, if you have a septic system, make sure it's working properly and get it inspected regularly, as well as picking up your pet waste, even if it's in your own private yard. It's really the good thing to do because we want to protect this watershed.
You can find out more about the Lake Whatcom watershed and what's being done to protect our only source of drinking water by visiting the city's website at www.cob.org and clicking on Lake Whatcom. All summer long, the City of Bellingham's Park and Recreation Department, along with neighborhood groups, bring you live outdoor music performances by some of the region's best bands. This is good stuff, and it's all free. I had a chance to take a look at 3 of the more than 24 performances scheduled this summer, starting with the Chryslers rocking out by the bay at Boulevard Park.
To celebrate. There's a party going on right here, yeah. A celebration to last throughout the years. So bring a good time and your laughter too. We gonna celebrate and party with you. Come on now.
Started off in 19 1985, 21 years ago.
Our joke this year has been that we're now legal. We can sing in bars now.
Right.
All with the same crew? No.
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 Kareen and I started off together, and then Kareen took a little time off, had babies and stuff like that. And
some of us stayed through the babies.
Right.
And sang through the babies.
Yeah. Didn't we have one gig with 2 people pregnant on stage?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Mark and you?
Yeah, that was Mark and
I never saw him before in my life.
It's time to come together. It's up to you. Oh, what's the upper lifestyle? Everyone around the world gather.
A very popular venue is over on the library lawn. We caught Nancy Stewart performing a concert for kids.
Oh my goodness, all that shaking going on. Gonna shake, shake, shake us till we got shake, shake, shake us till we got shake, shake, shake us till we got wiggle away.
I love that I establish relationships with people. I've been coming up here for probably at least 10, 15 years maybe, so it's fun to come back and see the same people. Kids are always different. You never know what's going to happen, and so that's a lot of the fun of it. It's a surprise.
Hands up. Ting-a-ling. Run, my little donkey, run. Ting-a-ling. Run, my little donkey, run.
Compare playing kids versus when you were doing the nightclub.
It's way more fun. The hours are way better. I'm so used to having involvement now, interaction, that if I sing with grown-ups, I kind of wonder, why are you just sitting there? You should be doing something.
Mama, Mama, I want a mango. Papa, Papa, please papaya. No, no, banana, ripe banana. Kiwi, 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 quince. Orange, oranges, lemon, yellow. Fill my tummy sweet and mellow. Vitamins grow on a tree in a pretty package for you and me. Mama, Mama, I want a mango. Papa, Papa, please papaya. No, no, banana, ripe banana. Kiwi, 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 quince. Oh, they travel many miles.
NancyMusic.com, and there are about 83 songs now. I do a song a month, and it includes the sheet music, guitar chords, the song file you can download. If you don't do it, there are instructions on how to do it, and printable activity sheets for teachers and parents. So my goal is to make it really accessible, easy to do, not one of those internet things that just sucks up all your time.
Kiwi, 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 quince. Oh, can we have a hand for the Bellingham Fruit Band? Yes, kick it back.
And over at Elizabeth Park, we caught up with Dana Lyons.
This is about the best concert in Bellingham here at Elizabeth Park. There's something ancient about this event because in just a very short while, that's why we're doing the interview now, there's going to be 1 million kids running around going crazy, woohoo, and there's going to be families and people of all ages, and everyone's chilling out and, you know, enjoying the music. I know some people will be paying close attention to my words. Other people will just be, you know, taking it in, eating pad thai and ice cream. It's just such a beautiful scene, and I just think that, you know, this is like a city square, and this is the way it's been all over the world for thousands of years. And so, just seeing everyone having fun in the summer, celebrating our community, doesn't get any better than this.
Well, I am an animal. You are an animal. We both are animals. We eat like animals. We smell like animals. We love like animals. We all are animals. We all are animals. The reptiles have some class. They slither about in the grass. They like it when the weather's damp. They party deep in the swamp. They got smooth and shiny scales, long tongues and longer tails. Ooh, I am an animal. You are an animal. We both are animals. We eat like animals. We smell like animals. We love like animals.
The Leisure Guide is a place to find all kinds of free activities all year long. You can get the Leisure Guide anytime you want by heading to the Bellingham Parks and Recreation website at www.cob.org/parks. Mayor Tim Douglas has been guiding our city now for 10 months. We thought it was time to check in with him and see how things are going and find out what's most important on his list of city projects.
This is a job I love, and it's because the community is such a great place and is getting better, I think, all the time. And one of the wonderful things about this experience has been so many important foundation buildings are underway, the things that we're doing to really create an even better Bellingham for the future. And there's so many things that are a part of that. Probably one of the biggest ones is the waterfront redevelopment project. It's a 3 decades project that we're going to undertake that is going to provide a cleaner waterfront, one that has a lot more public access, job opportunities, housing that will help us meet the needs of what's going to be a growing community. Lake Whatcom is really a challenge, I think, for our community, and it's a challenge for all of us because it's human activity that's really making the difference in that lake. Fortunately, we don't face a crisis today. That is, the lake isn't riddled with toxins and other problems. The problem is that the water quality is degrading over time, and we cannot afford for future generations to let that happen. One of the things that's been really fun this time around for me is seeing the resurgence of our neighborhoods, working in connection with them to do some things. One of the best examples is the Cordata Meridian neighborhood. In this 9 months, we've been able to work carefully with them in several ways. One, we have been able to purchase a 20-acre park. It will be the first park in that northern part of the city, as well as a new park and trail plan so that in there we'll be doing more of those kinds of things. We've arranged with the Whatcom Community College an opportunity for a library presence in that neighborhood where people can go and drop off materials or check out materials at that community college library, which is right in their neighborhood. They've taken the lead on being the first neighborhood out with our emergency preparedness plan. As we learned from Katrina, we all have to be mutually cooperative and independent to be successful, and that neighborhood is doing this. I really want to thank the City Council for giving me the opportunity to serve as mayor for this year. To thank the citizens of Bellingham for the tremendous support that they've shown and understanding we tackle so many things that don't have easy solutions. People are patient but also very alert to what's happening, and it's because of that kind of energy and interest that we have the great community that we do, and I'm just so pleased to have had a chance to help move things along in this 12 months.
Find out about Mayor Douglas's priorities and a whole lot more by visiting the city's website at www.cob.org. Summer is nearly over and kids are headed back to school, so take it easy on our roads, give kids a break, and help us look out for them. If you have feedback or ideas, we'd like to hear from you. You can reach us through our website or directly via email. It's nearly fall in our great city. Salmon in the streams, color in the trees, pumpkins ripening on the vine. Sit outside and walk a little. Visit our neighborhoods. Enjoy our tree-lined streets and colorful gardens, wildlife, and clean water. All right here in the best city on the planet. I'm Laura Greenfield for Doug Waldo and for all of us at the City of Bellingham. Thanks for watching.